We should be able to start pretty quick. They're still in the committee downstairs, so out of respect for them, we're going to wait for them. So they're just about finished. Okay, the rest of our party is finished up downstairs, and we'll be walking in here shortly. So we're going to go ahead and do the analysis first with Kelly Norton on the higher education overview. Welcome, everyone. And then we have agency representatives, Tawanda Jordan, president of St. Mary's College of Maryland. Dr. Perman will be here shortly, and David Wilson, president of Morgan State University. So you can come up after they finish their presentation. Okay, take it away.
Okay, thank you. We're going to begin on page 2, which looks at state funding changes for higher education. The public four-year institutions funding increases by 1.8% or $42.9 million from fiscal 25 to 26. Other higher education increases by 0.5% or $4.3 million. This results in a total increase of 1.5% or $47.2 million for total higher education, as shown in the bottom row. A more detailed summary of these budget changes will be discussed in their respective agency and institutional budget analyses. Turning to page 5, Exhibit 1 shows state support for the public four-year institutions. When excluding agricultural research and extension funding at Eastern Shore and College Park, total funding increases $42.8 million. St. Mary's College of Maryland receives the largest percentage increase of 5.7%, or an increase of $2.2 million. The primary driver of these increases are the salary enhancements. When the salary enhancements are accounted for, St. Mary's funding only increases 1.7%, and USM institution state support decreases approximately 5%. Without salary enhancements and HBCU settlement funding, Morgan State University's state support decreases 5% as well. Exhibit 2 on page 6 shows changes in state and local funding per FTEs from fiscal 2013 to 2023. Nationally, state and local spending.
Can I get you to move that microphone a little closer to you?
There we go.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, nationally, state and local spending per FTEs increased 39%. Maryland's increase of 57% falls below 3 competitor states, Washington, California, and Massachusetts. We now move on to Maryland state funding by segments. Exhibit 3 on page 7 shows funding per FTEs at the Maryland two-year institutions. From 2020 to 2023, state funding increased by 9.1%, and local funding decreased by 2.2%. This increase in state per FTEs is mostly due to declining enrollment at the Maryland two-year public institutions during this period. Exhibit 4 on page 8 shows state support and net tuition revenue per FTEs for the Maryland public four-year institutions. From 2020 to 2023, state support increased by 11.9%, while net tuition decreased 10.8%. Turning to Exhibit 5 on page 9, this exhibit compares the 5-year percentage change in tuition and fees at Maryland's public institutions with our competitor states after adjusting for inflation. In terms of the 2-year institutions, nationally, there was a decrease of 9.6%, and Maryland experienced a 14.5% decrease. Tuition and fees decreased 10.4% at Maryland's public 4-year institutions, and the U.S. average decreased 10.7%. Exhibits 6 and 7 on pages 10 and 11 show the average in-state and out-of-state tuition and fees for Maryland and its competitor states. Maryland has the third least expensive rates for both categories. At an average of $11,160 for the 2024 through 2025 academic year, Maryland has the 27th most expensive in-state tuition rate in the country. Turning to page 12, Exhibit 8 is a table showing the in-state tuition for University of Maryland College Park and its peer institutions, such as UCLA and Ohio State University. College Park has the second lowest tuition and fees among this group of institutions. Exhibit 9 on page 13 shows total undergraduate enrollment changes by segment. Nationally, undergraduate enrollment increased 3% in fall 2024. Similarly, Maryland's total undergraduate enrollment increased by 3.6%. Enrollment increased across all segments as shown in Exhibit 9. Community college enrollment grew by 4.6%, and the public 4 years enrollment increased by 3.4%. The private independent institutions enrollment increased 1%, the first increase since fall 2019. It should be noted that the fall 2024 enrollment numbers reflect opening fall enrollment data and are subject to revision. And Sarah Baker will now provide an update on the progress toward the 55% degree attainment.
Okay, thank you. So Exhibit 10 on page 14 shows Maryland's progress to its 55% completion goal, in which at least 55% adults will hold at least one degree credential by 25. When including the short-term credentials, 58.4% of Marylanders hold at least one credential. However, when excluding those credentials, only 52.7% have a credential. Now, MPEC did develop a model that sets degree targets that institutions need to reach in order for the state to reach its completion goal. And they projected Maryland will need about 845,000 additional degree holders by this year, with Maryland institutions accounting for over 100,000 of those degree holders. Exhibit 11 on page 15 shows each segment's targets and actual degrees confirmed. The public four-year institutions consistently exceeded their targets, and so did the community colleges until 2023, when they fell short by 898 degrees. MHEC projects that the state will fall short of its goal, projecting degree attainment of 52.4% for this year. So for Maryland to improve student progression from high school through completion in order to maintain and increase its degree attainment level, as shown on page 16 in Exhibit 12, the number of high school graduates is projected to peak in 2026 and then decline 6.9% by 2035. In addition, as is shown on Exhibit 13 on page 17, Maryland graduates will become more diverse, with the share of non-white graduates projected to increase from 61.5% in 2022 to 72.2% in 2035. So in order to maintain and grow enrollment, institutions will need to develop pathways and programs to retain and graduate first-generation and/or low-income students. In looking at the national immediate college enrollment outcomes on page 18, you can see on Exhibit 14, there's a gap in enrollment and outcomes between graduates from low-income and high-minority schools and those from high-income, low-minority schools. Overall, less than a third of the low-income students will earn a degree. And looking at Maryland on Exhibit 15 on page 19 shows the percentage of high school graduates not enrolling in college increased to 53% with the class of 2020, reflecting the impact that COVID had on students' decision to enroll in college. Since the pandemic, those going to college has increased to over 50%, but still below pre-pandemic levels. While undergraduate enrollment has increased since the pandemic, many of these students will eventually disengage from post-secondary higher education before earning a degree. Re-engaging this population of students will not only help the state meet its attainment goal, but also be a source of enrollment growth for institutions. So nationally, those with some college and no credentials increased 2% to 36.8 million. As shown on Exhibit 16 on page 20, 6.2% had recently stopped out of college, and 7.7% were identified as being potential completers. As shown on Exhibit 17 on page 21, the number of students who re-enrolled in an institution grew by 9.1%, or about 78,000 students. Exhibit 18 on page 22 showed that students were most likely to re-enroll in an institution in a different sector, with most re-enrolling in a public two-year institution. However, a majority of the stop-outs were more likely to return to the institution they were last enrolled in. Exhibit 19 on page 23 shows that those in Maryland with some college and no credential increased 3.4% to over 588,000. As shown in Exhibit 20 on page 24, 7.4% had recently stopped out and 9.7% are identified as potential completers. In general, there is a greater chance for the younger population with some college and no credential. Students will re-enroll and attain their degree. Therefore, the state and institution should focus its efforts on re-engaging this population, which may include targeting services and supports to them, including financial aid, as financials may have kept many of them from re-enrolling. And I'll turn it over to Kelly for the first issue.
Thank you. Moving to the issue section, which begins on page 25. The first issue covers the calculation of graduate credit hours of full-time equivalent students. The committees requested a work group composed of representatives of the public four-year institutions to establish a uniform calculation of graduate credit hours, FTEs, to be used by all of the institutions. The work group agreed to group the FTEs into 4 categories. Exhibit 21 on page 26 shows those categories and the calculation for each. The next issue begins on page 26 and covers the HBCU settlement funds. Exhibit 22 on page 27 shows the funding each HBCU has received since fiscal 2023, including the fiscal 2026 allowance. Funding can decrease from year to year, but it cannot go below $9 million. Bowie State has experienced 2 years of decreased HBCU settlement funds. Funding levels are determined by each institution's share of opening fall enrollment. Exhibit 23 on page 28 shows each HBCU's percentage of the opening fall enrollment for fiscal 2024 through 2026. You can see that Morgan State and University of Maryland Eastern Shore's proportion of total HBCU enrollment has grown, but Bowie State's has decreased. Exhibit 24 on page 30 shows how the 3 USM institutions expended their fiscal 2024 HBCU settlement funding. Bowie State and University of Maryland Eastern Shore expended the majority of their funding on academic programs, while almost half of Coppin State's funding provided financial support and scholarships. DLS is recommending adopting committee narrative requesting that BSU, Coppin State, Morgan State, and UMES each submit a report on the plans for the fiscal 2026 HBCU settlement funds. DLS has 2 operating budget recommended actions found on page 30. DLS is requesting the annual report on instructional faculty workload for the public four-year institutions, as well as a report on the HBCU's plans for the fiscal 2026 HBCU settlement funding. And with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you very much. Any questions of the analysts? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if you would like to come up to the table, Dr. Jordan, Dr. Perman, and Dr. Wilson. We'll try and not ask you as many questions as the House members do. They always ask more questions than we do. Okay, Dr. Jordan, you want to go first?
Good afternoon, Chair King and members of the Education, Business, and Administration Subcommittee. I'm really happy to be here today to discuss St. Mary's College of Maryland. With me today are our Board of Trustees Vice Chair, Paula Collins, and our Director of Government Affairs, Brandon Engel. Before I begin, let me express my appreciation for your continued support of St. Mary's College and of higher education in the state of Maryland. Your support of the sector is exemplary and should be held as a national model for the other states. Thank you. Additionally, I want to thank the analysts for their excellent work. You'll give them a message when you see them again.
There they are.
Oh, there they are. Thank you so much. So with the spring semester now underway, I am pleased to let you know that St. Mary's College continues to do well. Total enrollment continues to grow and is up 13% since 2020, despite the flawed rollout of the simplified FAFSA last year. Our enrollment success was the result of several significant initiatives, two of which I will highlight. First, the implementation of our LEAD curriculum that you've heard about the last couple of years. The LEAD curriculum integrates the proven long-term benefits of a traditional liberal arts education with the applied professional skills demanded in today's economy and enhanced engagement with high-impact practices. Second, we've modified the criteria that guide our decisions for adding new academic programs to include relevance to students and stakeholders, as well as projected financial sustainability within a defined period of time. The result is new programs in marine science and business administration, which have become the college's second and third most popular majors in just 3 years, as well as the integration of new data science curricula across the multiple majors within the last 3 years. Each of these initiatives is resonating well with prospective students and their families and have contributed to a 22% increase in applications over the last 5 years. In fact, the number of first-time applicants to the college has more than doubled since our pre-pandemic levels. I also want to point out that while we have worked hard to grow enrollment, we have remained committed to the goals set forth by the legislature for St. Mary's College. First, we provide an exceptional honors program coupled with the promise of access, affordability, and diversity. Our entering classes remain increasingly credentialed and increasingly diverse, and we have significantly increased need-based aid to support students from low-income families. With respect to affordability, we have frozen tuition for the 5 consecutive years, thanks to your support by updating and reaffirming our annual funding formula, a unique formula appropriate for the college's unique position in Maryland's higher ed sector, allowing us to adapt strategically and quickly to the rapidly evolving higher ed landscape. That support has been critical to enabling the college to reset its tuition at a more competitive rate. Today, tuition remains less than it was in 2013, and our students graduate with almost 30% less debt than a national average. Your support of St. Mary's College has contributed to this success, and we thank you. So I know you have much ground to cover today, so in my usual fashion, that concludes my comments, except that I want to say that it has been an honor and a privilege to serve with you as we support Marylanders and all the great work that we do at St. Mary's College of Maryland. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. And I'm serious about not accepting your retirement.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions of Dr. Jordan? Okay, let's go to Dr. Perlman.
Chair King, members of the subcommittee, I'm privileged to join my close colleagues here in offering comment on the DLS analysis. And as always, I thank the analysts for their excellent work. I too, speaking for the entire system, am grateful for the generous support you've shown to higher education and to the USM. The university system is celebrating our second straight year of enrollment growth. We have our second largest class of first-time full-time students. Taken together, our HBCUs have their largest freshman class in 16 years. Undergraduate enrollment overall is the 4th highest in our history and back to the numbers we saw before the pandemic. Great. And our graduate enrollment is up nearly 5% over last year. And this success is, of course, attributable to the picture that we paint of higher education and the institutions in our system. I believe you've seen last year's extensive report on how our universities focus their activities on recruiting Maryland students. We've received 55,000 in-state applications last year alone. We accept 75% of those who apply. Our enrollment numbers, though, are also a credit to how well we retain our students to graduation. Our retention and graduation rates well exceed U.S. averages for public universities. And this success, in turn, ensures us doing our part in contributing to the state's 55% degree attainment goal. We're proud that Maryland's public universities exceeded MHEC's target by nearly 3,000 bachelor's degrees last year. Enabling our success on both of these fronts, recruitment and retention, is our affordability, which I detail in my written testimony. And again, that affordability is a credit to the support we receive from the state, for which I thank you. Because the USM's foundational mission is access for all, access for any Marylander who wants a college degree, we're continually pursuing programs that put that degree within reach. In my testimony, you'll see our efforts in re-enrolling those who stop out of their education. But today, and in closing, I'd like to focus on our plans for Maryland Early College. We're working to build a sustainable early college model that allows Maryland students to attend high school and college at the same time, earning their diploma and college credits up to a full associate degree. We already have a number of duly enrolled students, 743 this year to be exact, up from 179 6 years ago, and that growth is great. But I want to make the point that early college is a more intentional and immersive experience than dual enrollment programs. It's targeted to a different population of students. While duly enrolled students are often already on a college track, they're often students who say, yeah, I'm going to college. Early college targets first-generation students, low-income students, others who don't necessarily see themselves as college-bound. They are fully integrated into a college curriculum, and they can take many of their courses on the college campus. They get wraparound academic, advising, and mentoring services, which give them the tools they need to stay on a path to navigate higher education, build the resilience you need, ultimately earn a four-year degree. And their focus could be healthcare, or teaching, or engineering, or cyber. There's a path. We're focusing our efforts now on Baltimore City and also Maryland's rural regions. I've had great conversations with colleagues in Southern Maryland, and
Can I stop you for 1 second and ask you a question? Sorry
Yeah.
to do that. And you and I have talked about this a little bit before, but I'm still hearing from students getting into the dual enrollment, the early college. They're taking courses in even the AP exams where they might get a 5 on the AP exam, but they get to College Park or they get to Towson and they're told, well, those courses aren't as rigorous as our college courses, so you have to take it over again, and then they have to pay for the course. And kids are getting kind of discouraged about it because they think they're really going to save something by taking those courses while they're still in high school, and then they get the charge and have to take the course over. So, yeah, it's still a frustration.
That is part of the work in progress. We've got to fix that. No question. And on that, I would wrap up. We're going to be and continuing to be very intentional about making this work with our partners in the continuum of education. So thank you very much for listening, and I really appreciate all of your support.
Thank you. Senator Quarterman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you as always. And just kind of following up on the chair's comments, as we're focusing on dually enrolled and early college and things of that nature. Specifically, I know our friends from our community colleges in the room also just want to have it said that, particularly in the cybersecurity and the computer science field that we see out in our neck of the woods in community college, I mean, we're making tremendous investments. As a state, the administration's made tremendous investments in cybersecurity, the cyber ranges, and we have to, I think to the Madam Chair's remarks, I'm hopeful that that can be a priority, maybe this committee, to get that figured out this year, because having kids getting associate's degrees in cybersecurity and computer sciences at Hagerstown Community College, then being told by College Park and Towson that, sorry, you have to take it all over again, that defeats the whole purpose of what we're trying to do here. So whatever we can do to accomplish that this year, I think should be a priority going forward. And just want to make sure, as we have everyone in the room here, that we can work on that collectively and collaboratively together. Thank you.
Senator, again, I couldn't agree with you more. We've made great progress in making transfer more seamless, but I would hardly pretend to say that we're there. So that's work in progress, and I appreciate your point and your expectations of us.
Okay, Dr. Perman, that was really short today. We still have
I knew you wanted it short.
we still have tomorrow.
Trying to please.
Okay, Dr. Wilson, welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And see, the standard has been set here, so I cannot go beyond that. So, we certainly want to take this opportunity to thank you, Chair King, and members of the committee for the support that you have provided to Morgan State University over the years. And certainly we want to thank our analysts for doing such a great job once again in bringing the higher ed overview forward to the committee. Just a word or two about Morgan. We, of course, are at enrollment capacity at Morgan. About 11,000 students. Our enrollment has increased about 30% over the last 4 years. In essence, we have run out of capacity. And that means that the 11,000 students that we have this year, of course, is a historic high. We've never even come close to that in our 158-year history. We are attracting students from 46 states, 70 countries, but still 58% of our students are from the state of Maryland, and every county is represented at Morgan. In moving toward our entering class for the last 3 or 4 years, every year we have received north of 20+ thousand applications. Last year was about 25,000 applications, and we enrolled about 2,450 freshmen from that particular group. We also have been paying attention, I believe Chancellor Pearman mentioned this, and the analysts did as well, to this large group of Marylanders and Americans with some college and no degree. In the nation right now, that has eclipsed 40 million people who started college, dropped out, things happened in their lives, and have just never, ever found institutions that were malleable enough to meet them where they were and show them how they could actually cross a path that they intended to cross when they came in. And so at Morgan, we have found a new college called the College of Interdisciplinary and Continuing Studies. And the target population clearly is the over 800,000 Marylanders with some college, no degree, as well as many of those individuals around the nation who would like to also finish what they started as well. That college right now has about 200 students. They have graduated about 24 so far, and the goal is, even though residentially we're at capacity, that we could see our enrollment over the next 3 years or so move closer in the 15,000 range, but primarily online, because all of these degrees would be online. We are the, get this right, the fourth largest public university now in the state. And so I think it's the fourth largest. So you have College Park, the largest, Towson second, UMBC third, and Morgan fourth. So that's puts that in
Can I
capacity.
stop you for one question, Dr. Perman? I should have probably asked you this question too. Do you know what is the key factor? Because some of the other universities are not doing as well. They're financially not doing as well. They don't have as many students. Do you have any idea what the difference? What's the reason here?
Is that question directed to me, Senator King?
Well, if you've got
Yes.
an answer, or Dr.
Oh,
Purdy,
yes.
either one.
It's kind of complicated, but not so. So we've looked at this, and there are about 3 or 4 reasons. Number one, we have undergone at Morgan curricular realignment. And as we have served on national boards, and we understand what the market is saying, that this is really what we want now in terms of newly minted college graduates. These are the skills. We've had those difficult conversations on campus, and as a result, we have put in place some very unique academic degree programs where we're one of only a few institutions in the nation offering them, and the only institution in the state of Maryland offering them. So, for example, we have a degree program in cybersecurity management that's growing very rapidly. That's the only degree program. We have the only degree program in the state in mechatronics engineering. That is growing like wildfire. Also, the only degree program in cloud computing. That's growing like wildfire. So that's one aspect of the growth. The other is the exponential rise in Morgan's brand all over the state and all over the nation. And people are paying attention, and they realize that they can come to Morgan and get a high-quality, world-class education that will take them far. And they can do that by engaging in all the other things, study abroad, for example, working with a faculty member in a research setting where they are asking the research question. And so this level of engagement in the learning process. And then the last is just that many of the students, particularly over the last 4 years, have made a conscious decision that they want a different type of college. And they want to be in a college environment that is exuding belonging, where they never have to walk around campus asking themselves, do they really think I belong here? And we picked that up a lot. And so it's the culture of the campus. It's a very inclusive culture, and we try and meet students where they are. Other colleagues may have other responses to what they're saying.
Senator, your question was the other side of the coin. Why are some institutions challenged by enrollment? And it is a fact. It's clear that even nationally, regional comprehensive, particularly in rural areas, struggle more than institutions in urban areas. And I think it's a great many factors that contribute, one of which is the fact that what we used to call non-traditional students are traditional students now, who need a great deal of flexibility that a larger institution can provide, need the opportunity of access to a job. They're often married, so maybe the spouse needs access to a job. This becomes a challenge in our non-urban areas. And I think all of that contributes to the fact that regional comprehensives, particularly in non-urban areas, have a harder time these days.
But I think it's really healthy to think that we are looking at today's population and working towards serving those needs rather than trying to keep the way we were 30 years ago. So
Yes.
I congratulate
We've got to
you on
serve
that.
the client like
That's right.
any other
That's right.
endeavor.
Okay, Dr. Wilson, continue. I'm sorry.
Okay. And we don't have a choice because the lack of innovation and the lack of movement in higher ed could render quite a few institutions obsolete.
Sure.
And I think institutions are realizing that we really do have to make the necessary changes. Let me just say a word or two about our research progress, because that too has reached historic levels at Morgan. In context, when I arrived as president, we were bringing in about $27 million a year in research grants. This past year, we brought in $88 million. And as I sit here, today, we have already surpassed 88 million in this fiscal year, and so we are well on our way toward $100+ million in research grants this year. That, of course, has led to Morgan actually being on the list of the top 100 universities in the nation in 2023 in the number of patents issued in 1 year. And so we came in at number 98, but it's the first time that an HBCU has ever made the list of the top 100 in 1 year.
Wow.
And so just to put that in context, as I indicated over on the House side on yesterday, we were able to produce 13 patents on a research expenditure base, not on a grant amount, but now expenditure base of $29 million. And we can provide you with a reference here where you can look at the other 100. So right above us is like the University of Georgia with a research expenditure base of $500+ million. But yet they only were able to produce a couple more patents than we were. And so we are a very efficient institution. We have been able to attract some of the best faculty in the country. They are being admitted into the national academies. They are national fellows, and they are coming in and they are embracing the teaching mission, but also the innovation and research mission, and taking it very, very seriously. With that said, when the Carnegie classification system when it releases its classifications, because it's not a rating or a ranking, it's a classification. When they release that in a couple of weeks, Morgan will not have made it to R1. Very high research. We have 3 very high research universities in our state, Johns Hopkins, College Park, and as of 2 years ago, UMBC. We will miss it by just a small data point, by 6 doctorates. And so with that in mind, I can say to you with a high degree of certainty that when those classifications are released in December of 2027, Morgan State fully intends to be the 4th R1 very high research university in the state. We are on path to achieve that. And then 2 more things, Madam Chair, and then I'll be done. We also are looking to the future, in the future meaning 20, 30, 40 years, and what might Morgan look like. And as I said, we've outgrown our current land space. And so we have acquired the largest tract of property in 100 years, 59 acres. That was the former Lake Clifton High School, and we are now in the process of developing the development plan for that. That will take into account the economic and community impact that would have in Northeast Baltimore, but it will also give us an opportunity to have incubators where the patents and the research coming out of Morgan can lead to spinoffs, and we'll have a place in order to house them. And then with regard to the HBCU settlement funds, we really thank you for your support there in enabling some funds to come to our institution to be invested in unique high-demand programs. And as I said, as a result of our using those funds strategically to do those things and to shore up some existing unique high-demand programs, that too has played a role in our enrollment growth.
Sure.
And so the economic impact of Morgan is about $2 billion, or close to $2 billion annually. And so we are giving the state a high return on the investment being made in us. And the Bloomberg Business Week just 3 weeks ago named the Earl G. Graves School of Business and Management at Morgan the 60th best business school in the United States. It ranked the top 70, and Morgan was number 60, ranking right above Syracuse and some of the other institutions. And so we continue to take the investment in us quite seriously and to hopefully give the state a very high dividend. And Madam Chair, let me just say that it has really been an honor for me to serve in the position of president at Morgan alongside President Jordan at St. Mary's. I didn't know her before she became president. I have really come to know her, to admire her, to respect her national voice and visibility in this space, and I really have enjoyed working with you.
And I suspect that even though she's retiring, she's going to still be living in the area, and I know that St. Mary's College is in her heart, and I'm sure I'll still be hearing from her. Okay, any questions from the committee? Comments? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We do have two witnesses. Let's see. Amanda. We have Brad Phillips and Amanda Amos. Not Amanda. No. Okay, just Brad. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Not just Brad. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the committee. I will be brief. I know I get another chance to talk at length about our budget when it comes to the Aid to Community Colleges overview, but let me also thank the analysts for their thorough analysis of higher ed, and particularly take note of the workforce, particularly when you think about the goals that were set in the state. We actually would have achieved those if we would have counted credentials at 58% attainment. And I think this is one of the things that I really want to double down when you think about the workforce and when you think about the economy. I think there's a reciprocal relationship to the health of Maryland's economy and how students are able to access and afford post-secondary in these credentials as well, other than associate's degrees and transfer and career pathways. You know, the community colleges enrollment has been continuing to grow, but what is not often accounted for is the students that are taking other courses of study other than an associate's degree. And we've noticed a significant trend over the last decade that now more students are actually engaging in credentials, certifications, and licensures other than an associate's degree. And we're using that as a pathway so they can work towards an associate's degree. But it provides us exciting opportunities, particularly around cyber. And I know that we're working across the state of Maryland to really build out our cybersecurity infrastructure so that we can really engage and deal with the workforce shortage in the area. I know the governor's really supportive of this effort. He's included money in the budget. We worked hard for grants to be able to build this out, and we're really excited about what we can do. You know, our institutions, we serve underutilized populations. We provide access to students that otherwise have none. We really feel like we are the gateway to economic growth and social mobility for so many Marylanders that otherwise do not have that opportunity. And I would be remiss if I did not hint at one of the issues that we have when we'll talk a little bit further about the aid to community colleges when it comes to the CAID funding formula calculations. Really quickly, last year they made two changes in the Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act. It removed the hold harmless, and it also made a change in the calculation on how FTEs were counted. It was either the greater of the 3-year average or the most recent FTEs. Well, last year, it had most colleges benefited from their average because it included pre-pandemic enrollment. This year, all the colleges grew, but because of the removal of the hold harmless, it made it seem as though other colleges had decreased in enrollment. And 2 of our colleges are actually receiving significant amount of funding less. For example, College of Southern Maryland, 4% less, while other colleges are getting 14, 15, 20% increases. So we think at a very minimum, we want to include the hold harmless. I didn't realize I was on a timer, so I apologize. That's it.
Thank you. We also have Matt Powell, who wants to testify. Is that right? Were you planning on testifying? You're not signed up.
Happy to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair King, members of the subcommittee. I'm Matt Power with the Maryland Independent College and University Association. I want to thank Ms. Norton and Ms. Baker for their analysis. I think they did an excellent job showing many of the demographic challenges facing higher education, as well as how our institutions help support the state's goals. MCUA institution is very thankful to the Moore administration for level funding in FY26. But I obviously do want to remind the subcommittee that last year, the Sellinger program was reduced by 48%, a greater reduction than any other program in the FY25 budget. And that reduction was particularly painful for some of our institutions that received much greater reductions than others. So we recognize the incredibly difficult job that all of you have in front of you this year and realize that FY26 probably isn't the year to seek restoration of funding. But it is our long-term goal and hope that in the future, we'll be able to work with this body.
It's very quick of you to think
Thank you. We're very hopeful that in the long run, we'll be able to work with this body to increase and distribute Sellinger funding in a more equitable manner in the future. Higher education this time is really under attack across the nation. For the first half of 2024, colleges across the country were closing at a rate of 1 per week, leaving huge voids in communities. And colleges do a lot more than simply educate students. They're employers, cultural centers, neighborhood anchors, supporters of local businesses, and integral parts of a community's fabric. Thankfully, in Maryland, we haven't suffered that fate recently, and that is because of our partnership with the state of Maryland and the General Assembly through the Sellinger program. The General Assembly created the program almost 50 years ago after the closure and subsequent state takeover of the University of Baltimore. The General Assembly realized that a small level of support to the state's private institutions was a better investment than the cost of taking over and reopening a closed college. We're thankful and appreciative for that partnership, and particularly the very long-standing support from this subcommittee. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak briefly today, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. Any comments, questions? Okay, Dr. Rai.
Thank you. Thank you for our opportunity to speak. I don't know what happened. I thought we tried to sign up. Again, good afternoon, Chair King and committee members. I'm Dr. Sanjay Rai, and I have the honor of serving as Maryland Secretary for Higher Education. Chair King, I want to thank you for your leadership on this committee and you being a champion of higher education. I am personally looking forward to continuing the great work to strengthen Maryland's already wonderful colleges and universities. I would also like to thank Kelly Norton and Sarah Baker for their thorough analysis. And I would like to thank all the leaders in higher education who were here today. We have some of the nation's greatest higher education institutions right here in the state of Maryland, and the people who lead these institutions are some of the best and most renowned leaders in the country. I will keep my comments broad and inclusive of all higher education segments, public and independent, and hold my Maryland Higher Education Commission specific comments to the MHEC budget hearing in mid-February. Because the state of Maryland is under budgetary constraint, we realize that adjustments will have to be made to meet the Moore-Miller administration's goal to grow our economy, apply a fiscally responsible strategy, and invest in our core priorities. Yet, the proposed FY 2026 budget continues to invest significantly in higher education, providing funding to continue the transformative work underway across the state of Maryland. The budget allows the system of post-secondary education to fulfill its mission of helping to meet the talent needs of our state by addressing key areas such as the workforce shortage and technological changes while contributing to a thriving economy. Let me share a few exciting budget highlights. MHEC and other areas of higher education will receive over $858 million in funding, representing a 2.3% increase in funding. Community colleges will receive over $504 million for the state portion of their operations. The state's nonprofit colleges and universities will receive over $73 million to support their institutional operations. And the state's public universities will receive $2.4 billion in their operational funds. The governor has allocated a record-breaking $138 million in the state funding to the Howard P. Rawling Educational Excellence Awards program, which supports students with the greatest level of financial need. This is an increase of over 21% in funding over last year's budget. This budget is a testament to the Moore-Miller administration's commitment to providing equitable access to high-quality post-secondary opportunities. The work in higher education is transformative, and for decades has positively impacted individuals, communities, states, and society. Higher education also serves as a key driver of personal growth, economic mobility, social equity, innovation, and business creation. Yet, there are threats to post-secondary education, which includes rising costs and student debt, accessibility and affordability, equity gaps, workforce alignment, technological changes, mental health and well-being, and institutional stability. MHEC is intensifying efforts to expand our historic mission by addressing rising cost and student debt and college access and affordability by providing a more streamlined access to financial aid resources. MHEC has also been dedicated to refining the academic program approval process to maintain high standards of quality, align programs with workforce demands, and support institutional instability. This past fall, MHEC hosted the state's inaugural Student Success Summit, where we released draft post-2025 goals that align with the vision for post-secondary education outlined in the Moore-Miller Strategic Plan. These goals are aimed at eliminating achievement gaps, fostering completion, enhancing the value of every credential, and enhancing research and innovation across the state. The development of our new state plan is a vital step toward transforming higher education to equip learners with the skills and knowledge needed to thrive in the 21st century and become engaged and capable citizens. With the powerful vision of the Moore-Miller administration and the incredible leadership here at the General Assembly, we aim to provide Maryland residents with numerous post-secondary pathways in order to ensure the continued success of our great state. As higher education leaders, we are not just preparing students for personal success, we are creating an investment in strengthening Maryland's economy. Before I close, I'd like to share a story of Aaron, a current Morgan State student whose journey demonstrates the life-changing impact of Maryland's higher education investments. Despite facing significant mental health challenges and initially being denied admission to Morgan State University, Aaron found his path through Maryland's wraparound support systems. After developing IT skills at Solars Point Technical High School, he was accepted into Morgan State's Cybersecurity Intelligence Management Program as a member of the inaugural class. Thanks to MHEC scholarships and critical campus services, Aaron achieved a 3.2 GPA his first year. Now, as a second year, he is thriving academically while supporting his brother with autism and working towards a debt-free graduation. Stories like Aaron's show how our investments are not only transforming lives, but also addressing critical workforce shortages in areas like cybersecurity, where thousands of these high-wage jobs remain unfilled in Maryland. The impact of state funding for post-secondary education becomes clear in Aaron's story. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm happy to address questions. I was carefully listening to your questions that you were asking before, whether transferability of cybersecurity programs or AP courses and some of the others. Happy to respond to those as well.
Any questions? Senator Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When we talk about MHAC, and we can follow up online, but some of the scholarship opportunities that we have in the General Assembly provided, even though the money's available and the courses exist, the MHAC working with the students and their website being open and available to communicate with the students has not been available. right? So we haven't, the students haven't been able to take place because there's a simple page that says, coming this fall. Well, this fall comes and goes, didn't know we were talking about the next fall, right? And so I am curious, like to follow up on it, and we can give you specific examples. I don't think we have to do it here, but I would like to know that if MHAC is really working for the students, right? What are we doing to address these issues, and why? I'm sure my colleagues get the same calls that we do that say these aren't available. Why is this not available?
Yeah, so thank you for the question, and we can certainly answer specifics. Let me tell you a general approach. Our scholarship platform is obsolete, and our first effort to bring a new scholarship platform, I want to thank General Assembly for providing resources. That process is underway. In between, we have created what is called one app. So students can go to one place and look at different scholarships and see what is applicable and how they can benefit and which one aligns to their educational objectives. We are significantly increasing our outreach efforts. And some of the scholarships, maybe we'll come back to you next year to relax certain requirements that are out there so that more students can benefit from those scholarships. But thank you for your observation, and we'll get back to you.
So just so we can follow up, if what we're dealing with is obsolete, and we pass a bill that we're going to utilize MHAC, right? My question is, I'd like to know if the process that you're utilizing, has that process been explained to all of our offices and our constituents so we're able to help them when they, I was at a dinner last night, and at that dinner there was a group of police officers that we did a bill to give them a free education if they were police officers. And they were like, nothing ever worked. We tried and tried and tried, and it wasn't one officer, it was multiple officers. And they were like, is that going to be available this year? And so we referred them to the MHAC web, right, to you, because that's the process. So if the process is obsolete, we need to obviously be brought into the equation.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Please direct them towards me directly. We will make sure that they have opportunity to avail those scholarships. What I meant is that our technological platform on which students have to go and do the paperwork, that platform from the IT points of view is about 20-year-old. We are bringing a cloud-based things where students can use things from their phones and make it easier to do the applications for those scholarships. But please share those students, direct them towards us. We'll make sure that they have the right guidance to avail those scholarships.
Thank you. We'll be sure to work with you on it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. I think that ends it for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.